Hello, who are you?
Hello, I'm Anna Sutyagina, and I'm pianist who is passionate about modern piano music.
Oh, that's a contradiction in terms. You and me on the same screen. There must be a reason. How did we meet, you and me?
I think over Facebook, the social media.
That's right. And I think I stumbled um, because I saw you were asking very interesting questions to the audience. What kind of question was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was the question about the language. If there were several, right? Let me think. It was about the interpretation. Yeah, if it's possible to interpret the composition in a specific way, or if there is only one particular interpretation possible. I think something like this, right?
Okay, yes, 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 I remember that. Well, this is a very, very brilliant question. But did you have in mind an answer when you were asking the question? I mean, what is your answer to it?
Well, the idea behind it was there was this saying by Celibidache who said there is only one possible interpretation possible.
Ah,
And I also talked to one composer. I talk to modern composers these days, and some of them really prefer just one interpretation or one version. Put it even this way, it's not interpretation, just one version. And some say it's up to you to do whatever you want to do with it. I wrote the music and you interpret. So I wanted to see how musicians see it. So it was important for me to get as many answers as possible from composers, from listeners, from pianists. um, I just wanted to understand what interpretation means and the role of pianist, you know?
what is your answer? I mean, if you say you yourself answer this, is there more than one interpretation? Can there be an interpretation?
Mhm. I am the person who likes comparing things. I think we all do, and with YouTube, you can really compare wonderful interpretations.
Yeah.
And my favorite channel is 10 Pianists in Comparison. Even 10 years ago, I found it difficult to hear the differences. So when we learn to play piano, we kind of follow the role that our teacher gives us. And then you kind of get it in your hands, you get it in your mind, and this is like one interpretation. When I listen to competitions, I also hear that it's more or less kind of a standard. Surely very good, but like kind of a standard interpretation that I will hear. And very few people can actually hear subtle nuances, the cues, the little things. In order to understand it, you need to really learn, right? So it's all about listening. If you put too much personality, then it's going to be a little bit different, right, from what you expect. So my question is, and this is where we are back to the modern piano music. I think when we play the classics, we really play it as it is. I mean, like as the historical, the best performance gives us, the so-called reference performance. But we are free when we play the new music, the music that's just written and nobody ever performed it. So for me, yes, it's more difficult to interpret the fresh composition than, for example, Ballade of Chopin, because I have it in my ears. So, you know.
I once did this. I mean, I'm not a musician, I'm not a pianist. I just very much like the music. But I once tested to listen to, I don't know, 10 or 20 different versions of Schumann's C-Dur Fantasie.
Yeah,
Dum, da,
huge.
dum, 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 dum. Yes. And by the way, the one I liked most was from Lars Vogt.
You mentioned it, yes.
It is just so powerful, and so it's like I don't know, it's like a storm. But the question I always have is, how far can we deviate? You know, if we let's assume that a composer, be it Robert Schumann or be it you, has a certain opinion and a certain standard in their minds. This is how I meant it. And then here come different pianists and saying, this is how I play, very feminine. This is how I play, very masculine. This is maybe faster, or this is slower. You know, the differences in timing when you listen to different pieces and they have different lengths. So all this frame I would call interpretation, you know, and there is a limit. And there's a limit where we'd say, no, you cannot do this. It just cannot be done. This is not how it is meant to be. You know, how do you come to such a limit?
Yeah, you see, there are several things that account for the interpretation. Of course, it has to do with the personal taste. It has to do with historical tradition, and surely also the technical possibilities, right? I mean, even
Brilliant, yes.
for the pianist of high level, you know, there are some technical limitations. How much you can deviate. You know, I see the pianist as somebody who is at the front, you know, who is in this communication channel, you know, between composer, pianist, and the audience. Pianist is somebody who is out there playing the music. So basically, for me, I like Horowitz's approach. Yeah, I mean, you can criticize me for that, but I really find that Horowitz knew what to do with some bits that were kind of a little bit, let's say, not optimal. So he would kind of do the interpretation that would work for this audience, for the time, for the location. And I think this is really the art of a pianist, because you need to take everything into account. For example, for your concerts that you are doing, they are more intimate, they are more small, right? So they would need perhaps not this bravura and not this brilliance and not this loudness. So in this case, even if I play this fantasy, right, I wouldn't really be doing like this thunderstorm, you know. So there will be deviations, but these deviations will be really specific, for the certain occasion, I mean, we all have personal taste, so it's really difficult to say, I mean, this is the way I want to hear it. Because, for example, I personally find that the older musicians get, the more slowness appears in their works. For example, you know, when they were young, the tempi were all much faster. And I also noticed that I had problem with playing real slow. Now it's getting better, but still, when I look at the interpretation of Arau, sometimes I just find, especially the third movement, right, of the fantasy, I find it just way too slow. And some days I can listen to, some days I find, oh no, let's do it totally different. So, you know, there's so many these little things, and are they deviations? Like Pogarevich brings something new, you know? He's like really drastic, and sometimes, especially for the pieces that you hear hundreds of times, like Mondschein Sonata or even Liszt Sonata, I want something new. So
so it's I think it probably remains very subjective, but if you know more, like you do, you have a more qualified rationale. If you don't know so much, if you just sort of feel the music like I do, there is a wrong or right as well. You know, there are ways where you say, no, you cannot play this piece like that. We wouldn't, I wouldn't be able to describe what it is. Yeah,
But you listen with your heart. So
yeah,
your heart is always right.
yes,
So in this way, this is the measure,
yeah,
right, for my
yeah.
interpretation.
But
If you feel
it's
connected,
also feel has to do with the experience and how you've heard the piece before and so on. Another topic you raised with your audience, I just found it, was: is there a difference between a performer as a person and his or her stage role? So, what do you think about this?
yeah. The reason I asked this question was because when I was in my 20s, I was kind of, let's say, copying David Bowie. And
What?
I was also searching for my personality.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, all live performances were really musical shows. So I would create a hairstyle, just for this particular program. I would choose the dress that goes with it, and it would help me to go on stage. Because it wouldn't be like me, like Anna, who is from
Yes.
Siberia, who is, a little girl who came to Germany, etc. I am kind of somebody who is playing this and this and this. So
Okay.
I was criticized for that because people were telling me, yeah, I mean, they really want to see my real self. And certainly, I noticed that, for example, the older I got, the less I needed that. But still, when I am on stage, or even now, when I'm talking publicly, there's always a different person. It's this kind of public person. And I also think, like today, marketing decides everything. We need to make the best out of our strength and create this kind of a person that you want to present to the audience. So I think there is always the persona who's playing. And I know many musicians personally. I think it's the only way. I mean, of course, we are talking about authenticity, so the persona should arise out of this character. And for example, Anna Netrebko, it's the best example, how the successful marketing and the personal character goes together. Because I mean, she's this kind of a lively person who really loves dancing, who loves singing, and who has this wow, this feeling. So Elena Garange is completely different, yeah. So, but she's still, this grande dame who's a little bit cold, but she has this elegance. So, and I think this is what we pianists should also find: this kind of authentic persona that you present to the audience.
Yes,
Like
and
this.
talking about yes, absolutely, and talking about strength. What is your personal strength, Anna? What makes you different from the others?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm really different from the others because, well, first I had a break in my pianist career. I kind of lost interest in the piano and regained it again.
Oh, when was that?
Well, that was exactly after the graduation. I also moved countries. And for some reason, I mean, like now it's not really clear to me myself, but at that time, I just had enough. It was so stressful, and from your artist, when you play classical piano, you play, but there is always but. All right, so it was good, but, and then you play at a certain level, but somebody says, yeah, but Anna, you can do that and that better. And there's always this kind of let's say, never-ending perfection thing, which can be good, but which can be also devastating if you are a very fragile young person who is not ready, who is not really mature to deal with these things. You know, you're always criticized, you're always evaluated. Somebody comes and says, no, 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 that wasn't the way you should play it. And then at that time in Russia, nobody was going to the concert halls. So I could see on one hand, you know, all the old teachers who were telling me, you should practice more and more and more. And on the other hand, the event organizers were telling me, well, nobody is going to the concert. We don't need new pianists, you know, sorry, you know. So there was this gap, and that was too much.
When was it? What time are we talking about?
It was in the 90s, you know.
In the 90s, in Moscow.
Yeah, so
where in Russia?
2000, beginning of 2000. So I mean, in the last years, I mean, before Corona, it changed completely in Russia. But at that time, it was really, you know, it was my whole, you know, from child to, you know, to adolescent. It was difficult, you know, because you kind of had to ask yourself, do you really, really, really want to make it your life? And my parents would be telling me, Anna, you should look that you do something that you can really survive.
So what you're telling me, apart from your personal reference in this time, but what you're telling us is that the time for a classical pianist before the 90s were really difficult? And when did this change?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know before the 90s because I was a little child at that time. But I would say yes, it was a kind of, I can tell from experience of my sister, because my sister is elder. So it was kind of the Soviet system. I would say till the end of the 80s, it was more or less the Soviet system. But again, with the Soviet system, it's all kind of decided. There is like one person who is playing everywhere. Okay, it was Richter, of course, before.
It's now called Lang Lang.
Well, yeah, I mean, great, but people forget.
Yes.
He was a guy who was playing like every day, everywhere. So, you know, from the point of view of, for example, Petrov, who was, of course, he was also playing, but not that much, you know. And then forget about all these small little, you know, pianists who are not little, but, you know, they never played too much, you see? So this is this typical system. But then you had only, let's say, 10 places at the university that, that you get or either not get, and the rest was nothing. And then in the 90s, that was really, let's say, a chaos because, I mean, I still had, perhaps I was lucky to have, of course, the teachers from the past, but nobody knew. It was all in transition. And perhaps it's similar to the situation that we have right now with Corona, because it was all full of uncertainty. You know, for example, we had all this inflation and deflation and all the, you know, accounts being frozen. And imagine we were going through difficult times. And only the strongest could survive. But strongest meaning not only our love of music, because we all had that, but you also needed the infrastructure to back it up, you know. So, and imagine as a little girl to grow up in this chaos, you know, where you had also criminality, you know, and then the type of person who could buy tickets. I mean, they were not, you know, the ladies, you know, who were like listening to Richter. They were guys who could buy this expensive tickets, you know. And you play for them, and you come and say, well, I play Mozart. And they say, hey, play Murka or play Kalinka, you know, and then you get 1,000 on top. Difficult, you know. I mean, of course, I could deal with it right now, but when you are 18 or 19, how to deal with that, you know?
And when exactly was this break you were talking about, where you said, I won't play anymore, and then you took it up? I
So
just
I
need
was 22 or something.
Okay,
So
and
I
you
just
were
graduated,
in
and I
Russia.
said, yeah. I remember the day I just closed
The lid.
the lid on the piano, and I
Yes.
said, that's it. And I just didn't even want to touch it. And my parents said, well, but you can play for yourself. But for some reason, when I think it's similar to the sports people, when you really kind of try to reach the
Olympic medals,
the
yes.
skies, and you
Yes.
really like practice 6 hours a day, and then somebody says, well, play for yourself. You cannot play for yourself. You're always kind of a event or goal driven.
Yeah.
So I couldn't. And it took me, let's say, 6 up to 8 years to restart.
Okay.
But it was like one day, day by day. I wanted to do more music, so I tried singing. I went to choirs, then I took the vocal lessons, and I thought, well, maybe I have something different. And then until somebody told me, Anna, well, but you play. I mean, why do you all these other things? And then one day I just bought again Chopin Etude book. And that's how it all started. It was so difficult because I had, and I still am, learning again many things that I kind of lost, because it's really formative years,
Yes.
Okay, that's
But
life.
then came a point in time where you followed another road, which is you didn't really leave your classical piano education. You cannot leave it. It's just you build on it. But you decided to compose yourself, and you decided to devote your interest into modern music. What was this a moment in time where you sort of opened the lid and said, "I'm going modern now," or how did this happen?
Yeah, well, when I restarted playing, as you said at the beginning, I wanted to focus on my strength, and my strength were creativity, openness, and interest in the future. Because I think, the future of music is all that keeps us alive, so I'm not looking like backwards. But certainly I do, and I still play classical, because, I mean, this is the basis. So first, I wanted to do videos for YouTube, and I wanted to play the famous compositions, but I wanted to present them in a new way. So I thought, for example, Beethoven Pathetique, the first movement, to show it as freeing of the constraints, searching for freedom. So I would be doing kind of the acting things. So I had this period in life where I was also acting. Or The Man I Love of Gershwin, put it in the context of Fitzgerald, Great Gatsby, things like this. However, I felt that I wasn't getting good feedback from the YouTube, and I really wanted to do things where I know I am creating value, and I'm doing something that's also of interest for others, not only for me. Then I started doing the Munich salons, Munich classic salons, and some combination of literature and music. So they were not for internet, they were really the small location, kind of hybrid event. So I was doing that for 10 years. So I would put these strong women personalities on stage, and the format was like a little bit of text, a little bit of acting, and music. So both genres are equally important. So I was doing that, but it's also wasn't really kind of fulfilling me, because I knew that social media and internet would be the future. So 4 years ago, I founded Moving Classics Initiative, and this is the initiative to promote living composers. because I feel that there are so many talented composers, but nobody's playing them. You know, they're writing music, but they need motivation. They need impulse that somebody says, hey, this is wonderful what you're doing, because this is exactly what I was searching for myself as a young musician, as a young girl. So I want to be this inspiration.
Let me just repeat this, so to put more emphasis on it. It's called Moving Classics, right? So we find you, if we Google Moving Classics, we'll find you. And what you do is you promote composers. Okay, this I can absolutely imagine that there are a number of very capable, very wonderful, very hungry, young and very composers doing wonderful things. I can imagine there are things which even I would like. This is not easy. But I'm sure there is, and from what I've heard from what you showed at this Moving Classic, there are wonderful things there. But how is that a business model? Because I mean, are there people who want? I know there are people who want to appear there, but are there people who want to listen? What is the chance you're giving, other than putting someone on the internet?
You mean the business model?
Yes.
How it works?
Yes. I mean, in the end, they need to eat.
Yes. This is that's it's really. I agree with you completely, and this is also my kind of let's say major concern right now. Because I mean, as a composer, you are even in an underprivileged position as a pianist, because as a pianist I can play you know, my Mozart and so on. As composer, you're getting your money only from the royalties, or that's why so many composers these days are also performing their own music, so they are like pianist and composer together, which is really the best business model that one can have. Moving Classics is a free initiative. It's not commercial, but having said that, I still have high costs, and these costs are covered by Buy Me coffees, Patreon. You know, I have Patreon patrons who are supporting me, and the composers who are also given the donations for the creation of the videos and also for the promotion. Generally speaking, it is really a problem not only for me but also for anybody who is presenting music in internet. It has both ways, positive and negative. Positive is, of course, the exposure that you are getting, and also ability to reach people like yourself, for example. You know, I mean, this is wonderful. You know, all this networking thing. This is really priceless. On the other hand, I mean, look at the Spotify rates that we are getting, right? Or, I mean, YouTube, I don't even mention this because you need a certain amount of hours that people watch until you get a little bit of everything. So this is not really the
source of income.
Source of income, yes. And regarding all these Patreon models, unless there is a specific benefit to you as a person, nobody is supporting. So it's, you know, if it's a public good, then we are back to the question that I also asked in the Facebook, how is it with the public supporting? In Germany, you know, the academic music is supported, but not this easy modern piano, you know, the emotional and tonal music, because it's more like, let's say, entertainment, and it's not serious music. So it's more difficult to get public support for the tonal music. That's why what I'm doing, it's just my humble attempt to raise awareness. And all I want to do is really to to show it to the key stakeholders.
Yeah.
It needs to be heard, and it's really wonderful to be heard.
I would really like to, I would really like to know what would happen if we did, one location, like we have 45 locations, where we do just classical music, and I would really like to know what would happen if you had a location in Munich, by the way, where you are, and you said you just offer modern music there, and you as a person are the guarantee. I mean, the reason I'm performing classical music is because I have a brand. The brand is Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin. Everybody knows if they open a Chopin box what's in there. It's wonderful music. Now, nobody knows what they open if you come with your modern music. Now, I was wondering what happens if you are sort of the guarantee. You are the person. You say, if I present you the music, you public, it's going to be terrific. I wonder whether that works. Have you ever tried, or has that been tried?
Yes, of course. Yes. I really did. Yeah. It depends on event locations, and I played several concerts just with modern piano music.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you from the marketing point of view. It's really like this. You need something that you can connect with. So just all new names doesn't work.
No.
So there should be at least one familiar.
Yeah, there must be a brand name as a guarantee, and that could be you as the person who chooses the good things.
I noticed that when I talk and when I explain, then it kind of takes a little bit of this apprehension, because people might think, well, it's not something for me. When people listen to it, they like it because it's beautiful music.
Yeah, but I think that's something we have in common, with the modern generation. They don't know who Mozart was, and so all I say is, just come here and sit. You can always go out, leave if you don't like it. They never leave. They love it. We know that, but they don't. And so that's the same, right? But one more question. I know I actually have two more questions. One would be towards the end, where I would ask you how you choose these 10 pieces we are going to listen to in the end. I think there are 10 pieces, and how are they yours? Are they composed by someone else? How did you choose them? That would be interesting. So I come back to this question in a minute. But one very basic question to what can be invented after Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, and Chopin and Schumann? Is there anything that can be done? What is it? What is it that makes, to give one road, makes it possible after Shakespeare to go to Mickey Mouse? Or are you saying, no, Catherine, this is not at all what it's about. It's completely different. What's your opinion?
Yeah. Well, thank you for this question, because it's a fascinating question, and I try to be brief on this because this is exactly what I'm doing. I am actually research the music, because I'm getting every day, well, let's say 5 to 10 new submissions of music from all over the world.
Yes.
So the music that I am receiving, I'm processing, reading, and I'm presenting. Every week on Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, we have a new recording, and we have a composer of the week. So the best compositions will be presented.
Okay.
Please keep in mind, it's for social media, so it's not for concert hall. So the selection is also kind of implies that it's really the music that's not very demanding, and it has a short length of time. This is for the Moving Classics presentation. For the further development of the music, it is a big problem, because this is something that I often hear, and the comparison goes. Yes. For example, XY composer always compared with Beethoven and Schumann and Mozart. First thing, they are all living composers. Some of them are still very young. They are developing. And the pieces that I play, it can be just piece number 3 in their whole creation. And if they create the whole life, maybe the masterpiece will come later.
Yeah.
So it's unfair to compare this music with Beethoven, right?
Okay.
And surely what the trend is to write more melodic, tonal music. It's very eclectic. It has all different genres, so you can mix everything. You can start in Mozart style, you can put some rap there, you can put, I exaggerate, but you can put something from jazz, samba, or anything. And if all goes well, the best compositions today are that are mixing really unexpected things.
Yeah, okay.
And where you can see or you can hear the personality of the composer.
Yeah.
I mean, there are rare moments, I must admit, yes, but this is something I'm searching for. I really want to hear really something. Let's say if it's Peru, then it should be some Peru individual character there. You know, that's like the ideal case. And today you need story, because without the story you cannot really present the composition.
Okay, it's a mix. Yeah. It's a story and it's authentic. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Now let's come to the final question. You are going to present 10 pieces which you have played.
Yes.
What are the pieces? How did you choose them? What are we going to hear?
Yeah. I think because we all live in this social media world, these 10 pieces are the most viewed, the most heard pieces, the whole lifetime of moving classics. I think this is the fairest. So from all the 456 compositions that I recorded in the last 4 years, they are like the top 10. I think this is fair, so that you can kind of make your own mind if what this music is about and what the people are listening to. So I don't intervene with my selection. My selection is done every week, so this is just what the audience likes and listens to.
Well, I've listened to them, and I found it very nice to listen to them. So that's a big compliment, because don't tell it to anybody. I don't listen to music at all, only in these concerts I organize. I cannot listen to music and do things. I just not. My brain is not developed for that. But this was very, very nice to listen to your music. So. Yeah, for the audience, we are going to listen to these 10 pieces, moving classics, in a minute. Anna, thank you very much for your time. It was wonderful to talk to you. I hope we meet in person one of these days and years.
That will be lovely. Thank you very much for your time and for your inspiring questions.
Thank you. And I also would like to say thank you to the audience who's listening to this nice interview. There are means to support the production of these interviews, and how this is done you will see after this. Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.